Hello everyone. Hope you all are doing well at your home. So myself, Dr. Nagapayal Teyadar, working as Assistant Professor, Department of Chemistry, JSS Arts, Science and Commerce College, Gurgaon. So here I am going to deal with BSc first semester Unit 2 chapter in chemistry. So Unit 2 is chemical bonding and molecular structure. In that, I am going to take covalent bonding. So in covalent bonding, we have two approaches. One is valence bond approach and second one is molecular orbital approach. In the valence bond approach, shapes of some inorganic molecules and ions on the basis of Vs, EPR and hybridization, with suitable examples of linear, trigonal planar, square planar, tetrahedral, trigonal bipyramidal and octahedral arrangements. Molecular orbital approach. In the molecular orbital approach, rules for the linear combination of atomic orbitals method, bonding and anti-bonding molecular orbitals and their characteristics for SS, sp and pp combination of atomic orbitals. Non-bonding combination of orbitals, molecular orbital treatment of homonuclear diatomic molecules of first and second periods, and heteronuclear diatomic molecules such as carbon monoxide, nitrogen monoxide and the ion that is NO plus, and the comparison of VB, that is valence bond theory, and molecular orbital approaches. So before going to the actual syllabus, so let's have a little bit idea about the periodic table. So here the periodic table classified as 4 blocks. For example, S block elements, the group 1 and group 2, B block elements, D block elements and F block elements. So again it is further classified into 7 periods and 18 groups. So these 18 groups are classified based on their similar chemical and physical properties. Group 1 elements are called alkali metals, group 2 elements are called alkali earth metals and so on, and group 17 elements are also called halogens. Group 18 elements are called noble gases. If you see the elements in the periodic table, if you compare the stability of all these elements in the periodic table, the group 18 elements are most stable elements in the periodic table. So why these elements are most stable in the periodic table, that we can discuss one by one. So here, so if you see the electronic configuration of all the elements present in the periodic table, and we come to the conclusion that there is a similar pattern follows in the 18 electron in the 18 group elements, where the last cell containing 8 electrons, if you go with the examples, that is neon containing 8 electrons in the last orbit, that the orbit is second orbit or second cell containing 2 electrons in the s orbital and 6 electrons in the p orbital, and this 8 electrons present in the last cell, that is second cell, with the neon element. And if you go to the argon, so the atomic number of the argon containing 8 electrons in the third cell, and similarly krypton, fourth cell containing 8 electrons, similarly other 2 rare gases containing 8 electrons in the last orbit. So the elements containing 8 electrons in their last cell are most stable elements in the periodic table. So the general rule is known as octet rule. So the elements which follows the octet rule, and such elements are most stable elements. So if you see the stability of the other elements present in the periodic table, let's say for example, so 17 group elements requires 1 electron to attain the stability or to attain the electronic configuration of nearest noble gas configuration. So here the halogens requires 1 electron, and if you go to the first group element, that is alkali metals, can lose 1 electron and attain the stable electronic configuration. So this losing and gaining the electrons leads some of the interaction between the elements, or maybe the sharing up of the electrons with the same group elements. So there comes the interaction between the elements present in the periodic table, and we need to go for that interaction. So there comes the covalent bonding, that is the actual sharing up of the electrons between the atoms, and where to achieve the stable electronic configuration. So for example, if you take the example chlorine, that is halogens, so which needs one electrons to attain the general to attain the stable electronic configuration. If you see the electronic configuration of chlorine, that is 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, 3p5. So in the third cell, so we have 7 electrons, so we need 1 electron to attain the stable electronic configuration. So what is happening here, one chlorine atom combines with another chlorine atom by sharing 1 electron each to attain the stable electronic configuration. So this sharing up of the electrons from each of the atom so gives us a bonding, that is bond pair, or I can say bonding pair. So this pair is known as covalent bonding. So here, for example, if we go to the hydrogen molecule, so this hydrogen molecule contains 2 hydrogen atoms. Each hydrogen is like hydrogen atomic number is 1, 1s2. It has 1 electron in its outermost cell. So it has to attain its stable electronic configuration. It has to share its electrons to the other atom, and it becomes a stable electronic configuration of helium. So in this way, they have shared their electrons, outermost electron, that is unpaired electrons, to form the bond, or to form the to attain the stable electronic configuration. And such pair is known as bonding pair or shared pair, or it is also called as covalent bonding. So the examples of such cases are hydrogen molecule, chlorine molecule, methane, chlorine, water, HCl, and so on. So now we can have a general definition of covalent bonding. Covalent bond is formed by equal sharing of electrons from both the participating atoms. The pair of electrons participating in this type of bonding is called shared pair or bonding pair. These type of bonds are also called molecular bonds. Well, if the atoms share one unpaired electron from each atom, then the bond formed is, or the bonding pair is, only one bonding pair, that is the share of electrons. 2 electrons are shared, and such bonds are classified as a single bond. If the participating atoms are shared 2 electrons each, then such bonds are classified as double bonds. So double covalent bonds. If the participating atoms share 3 electrons and the total number of electrons are 6 electrons, and the bonds forms are 3 bonds, and it's triple covalent bonds. So these are represented by hyphen, double bond here, and it's a triple bond. Examples of these are single bond, water, hydrogen, chlorine molecule, etc. And if you go for the double bond, here is a carbon dioxide and oxygen molecule, etc. If you go to the triple bond, covalent bond, examples are nitrogen, carbon monoxide, and so on. So let's think of what are the factors which are favoring the formation of the covalent bond between the atoms. Let's take an example. Like now, the atoms are in general A and B atoms. The ionization potential, it is a energy ionization potential, meaning the energy which is required to remove an outermost electron of the atom. So ionization potential of the participating atoms A and B should have higher values, then it is easier to form the covalent bond. For example, chlorine is also having same ionization potential, and chlorine, and the chlorine is more ionization potential, so it is very difficult to take the electrons from the outer shell of the chlorine. So higher values of the ionization potential, it is easier to form the covalent bond. So here the atoms A and B having a higher ionization potential, so that none of them should able to lose electrons and form cations. Instead they share the outermost electrons and form the covalent bond And the second factor is electronegativity. Electronegativity is one. It has a tendency tendency to attract electrons towards itself. It will not lose the electrons to other atoms. So here the participating atoms, either they should have a equal electronegativity values or slightly different in their electronegativity values. If they have equal or same electronegativity values or same atoms, so what they will form? They will form so non-polar covalent bond or pure covalent bond is formed. So where what is happening is there is a symmetrical distribution of shared pair of electrons is taking place. For example, Cl2, chlorine molecule, bromine molecule, fluorine molecule, and hydrogen molecules, etc. If there is an electronegativity difference between the two molecules or between the two atoms, then there is a bond formed between the participating atoms. So that bond is known as polar covalent bond. Why? Because so one atom which is having a higher electronegativity values, which can attract the shared pair of electrons towards itself, so that this bears a partial negative charge on it, and the other atom which bears a partial positive charge on it. So this is represented by A delta negative, which is having higher electronegativity value. For example, in the case of HCl, Cl is more electronegative than H, and B stands for HCl, and which has a partial positive charge on the hydrogen. So this is how it is represented. Well, what are the general properties of the covalent compounds? Physical state, how the covalent compounds are. Covalent compounds are usually made up of discrete molecules which are held together by weak van der Waals forces. As they are very weak, hence these exist in three states, like solids, example is iodine, liquids, example is bromine, and gases, example is chlorine at room temperature. So second is crystal structure. If we need to discuss about the crystal structure of the covalent compounds, we need to have three types. We need to discuss three types of the crystal structure, and crystal structures those in which the molecules are small and held together by van der Waals forces. And the examples of such crystals are organic compounds and S8 sulfur 8 compounds. So examples of such crystals, since van der Waals forces are very weak, very small amount of energy is required to separate those molecules, and hence crystals of this type are soft, easily fusible and volatile. The second type of the crystals, those in which every atom is united with the other by covalent links, forming infinite three-dimensional covalent structure called giant molecules. In these molecules, strong forces operate in the directions, and hence these compounds are very hard and high melting points. The very good examples of such kind of crystals are silica and diamond. In silica is also hard, and diamond is much harder than the any of the material. So third type of the crystals are those in which the separate layers are forming. So there is also a van der Waals interaction between the separate layers. So very good example of this one is a graphite, is a very good example of such kind of crystals. The third important property is melting and boiling points. Due to the existence of weak van der Waals interactions or weak van der Waals forces, the energy required to break these forces is very low. Hence, the melting point and boiling points of the covalent compounds are relatively low except giant molecules. So next is conductivity. The covalent compounds are bad conductors of electricity in their liquid and fused state due to the absence of free electrons and ions. So the next fifth property of the covalent compound is solubility. Most of the covalent compounds are insoluble in polar solvents. Since covalent compounds or covalent molecules do not interact with the polar solvent molecules to form hydrated ions, covalent compounds are soluble in polar, non-polar solvents, for example benzene and carbon tetrachloride, because they have got nearly the same molecular structure. That is because both of them are covalent in nature. High polymeric covalent molecules are covalent compounds, and those forming the giant molecules are virtually insoluble in any of the solvent. So the last property of the covalent compound is molecular reactions. Covalent molecules do not undergo reactions in aqueous solutions since molecules are non-ionic. Well, if we want to discuss more about the covalent bonds, So we need to go for the covalent band theory, covalent bond theory. So here in the covalent bond theory, so this is introduced, that is Hitler and London. The covalent bond theory is introduced by Hitler and London. So this states that electrons in a molecule occupy atomic orbitals rather than molecular orbitals. The electrons in the molecule occupy atomic orbitals rather than molecular orbitals. The atoms overlap on a bond formation. The larger the overlap, the stronger the bond is. The larger the overlap and the stronger the bond is. Here this contains three parts. The first part is electrons in a molecule occupy atomic orbitals rather than molecular orbitals. These are the atomic orbitals of the carbon dioxide molecule, and in the second part is atomic orbitals overlap on bond formation. Upon the overlapping of the atomic orbitals, there will be a formation of the bond, and that bond is a valence bond. The third part of the valence bond theory, that is the larger the overlap, the stronger is the bond. So larger the overlap of the atomic orbitals and the stronger the valence, stronger the covalent bond. For example, carbon dioxide molecule represented here, you can see there is a overlap of the atomic orbitals and the formation of the sigma bond and pi bond, that is sigma pi bond and sigma covalent bond and pi covalent bond. Well, what are the postulates of the valence bond theory? Here the postulates are, first postulate is covalent bonds are formed when two valence orbitals belonging to two different atoms overlap on each other. The atomic orbitals overlap on each other and forms the bond, and those bonds are covalent bonds. The electron density in the area between two bonding atoms increases as a result of this overlapping, thereby increasing the stability of the resulting molecule. For example, here you can take the atomic orbitals of hydrogen atom, that is 1s orbital overlapping with the 1s orbital of the another hydrogen atom, and these orbitals having electrons with the opposite spin pairing up to form a molecular orbital, that is hydrogen molecule. So this is what the first postulate says. And the second postulate, the presence of many unpaired electrons in the valence shell of an atom enables to form multiple bonds in the other atoms. With the other atoms. The paired electrons present in the valence shell, do not take part in the formation of chemical bonds. So this is according to the valence bond theory, that is according to Huibiti. If there are presence of unpaired electrons, many unpaired electrons present in the valence shell, so these are able to participate the formation of the covalent bonds. If oxygen, so in the case of oxygen, here in the oxygen, if you write the electronic configuration of oxygen 1s2 2s2 2p4, you write it like in this way: 1s2 2s2 2px2 2py1 2pz1. Here there are two electrons, unpaired electrons present in the outermost cell, so these two electrons able to participate in the bond formation. So two electrons of one oxygen and two electrons of other oxygen, giving us two bonds, giving us a oxygen molecule and two shared pair of electrons, and this forms two covalent bond. One bond is pi bond and other bond is sigma bond. So that we can discuss how the pi bond and sigma bonds are formed here. So here the second postulate is the presence of many unpaired electrons in the valence shell able to form multiple bonds with the other atoms. Very simple postulate the second postulate is. And the third postulate, the covalent chemical bonds are directional in nature. So the covalent bonds are always forming along the axes. The fourth postulate is the sigma bond and the pi bonds differ in their pattern, that the atomic orbitals overlap, that is pi bonds are formed from sidewise overlapping. The pi bond is forming, you can see here the sideway overlapping. The py orbital of one atom and py orbital of another atom overlaps, gives us a pi bond. And if there is a overlap is axial, are head-to-head overlap, and this leading us to produce a sigma bond. It is also called sigma overlap. So this is all about the postulates of the valence band theory. So now let us move the how the valence bond theory is illustrated by considering the formation of the some of the molecules. For example, hydrogen molecule atomic number is 1, the electronic configuration is 1s1, and this contains one unpaired electron. The hydrogen has one unpaired electron in s orbital, that is, it has one unpaired electron in 1s orbital. When two hydrogen atoms approach each other, see here, the two hydrogen atoms approach each other, their 1s atomic orbital overlaps with another 1s atomic orbital of another hydrogen atom. This overlap is along the axis or head-to-head overlap, leading to the formation of sigma bond, and this forms the molecular orbital of the hydrogen molecule. So this is how the hydrogen molecule is formed according to valence bond theory. So second one is the formation. The second example is the formation of the chlorine molecule, that is F2. So in the F2, the fluorine atomic number is 9. You write the electronic configuration here, 1s2, 2s2, 2p5, and if you write the box-like electronic configuration, 1s2, 2s2, 2px2, 2py2, 2pz1. Here there is a one unpaired electron present in the outermost orbit or orbital, and hence this overlaps with another chlorine which containing another one unpaired electron, gives us a molecular orbital, and this forms the single bond between the participating chlorine atoms. So here the pz orbital of the one chlorine, so here which is having one unpaired electron, and the pz orbital of the another fluorine atom which is having unpaired electron, both of them overlaps according to the valence bond theory, and this overlap is known as sigma overlap, and the formation of the bond or the resulting bond is sigma bond, and this is the molecular orbital, that is fluorine molecular orbital. And the third example is the formation of the hydrogen chloride. So if you write the electronic configuration of hydrogen, this is 1s1, chlorine is 1s1, 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, 3p5, and again here is also having one pz orbital containing unpaired electron, and here 1s1, that is also containing one unpaired electron. Chlorine has one half filled 3 pz orbital, and hydrogen has one half filled 1s orbital. When one chlorine atom approaches to one chlorine, sorry, not chlorine, it is chlorine. One chlorine approaches to hydrogen atom, and the overlap of the 1s orbital of hydrogen and overlap of this 3 pz orbital of the chlorine gives us the overlap is sp overlapping and the sigma sp overlapping, and the resulting bond is sigma sp bond, and this is how the HCl molecule is formed just by overlapping of the unpaired electron which is present in the orbital of the each of the participating atom. Participating atoms are H and Cl here. So this is how the things are going on. And the valence bond theory, what are the applications of this valence bond theory? The maximum overlap condition which is described by the valence bond theory can explain the formation of the covalent bonds in several molecules. This is one of its most important application. For example, the difference in the bond, difference in the length and the strength of the chemical bonds in H2 and F2 molecules can be explained by the difference in the overlapping orbitals in these molecules. If the overlapping is more, then the strength is also more. So this is the most important application of the valence bond theory. The covalent bond in an HF molecule is formed from the overlap of the 1s orbital of the hydrogen atom and 2p orbital belonging to the fluorine atom, which explained by the valence bond theory. What are the shortcomings of this valence bond theory? It fails to explain the tetravalency exhibited by the carbon, and no insight offered on the energies of the electrons. The next shortcoming is the theory assumes that the electrons are localized in specific areas, and it does not give a quantitative interpretation of the thermodynamic and kinetic stabilities of the coordination compounds. and no distinction between the weak and strong ligands, and further no explanation for the color exhibited by the coordination compounds. So these are the shortcomings of the valence bond theory. So in the next class we will discuss so how we can how the other theories can explain the structure, the geometry of the covalent compounds. So thank you. If you have any questions, please text me in the comment box. Thank you.